A very warm welcome to all our viewers on Globespan 24/7 as we enjoy for the fall a very warm day here in the United States. There's a lot of rain happening in New Jersey, coming up to New York, but it has been a relatively very warm day for this 25th day of October, an amazing day. We want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. We also want to thank our sponsors for being with us and helping us to carry this program. And I'm appealing to all of you again, please chip in your part so we can continue to bring this program to you live on Globespan. We want to thank Nohar Singh for making this platform available, and of course, Devin Bisu, our technical specialist, for making all the things available to you and to our guests as we begin today's program. Today, we are very honored again to have no stranger to us. As you all know, President Ali has around him some of the most youngest, if that's the right word to use, and most brilliant heads around him. And the minister we have tonight for the second time is no stranger, Minister Susan Rodrigues. Welcome to the program tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, and we were talking off the air, and I said, Minister, all the hard work making you guys look more beautiful. So keep up the hard work. If President Ali is watching this program, give your minister some more work because they look very good when you give them all the hard work.
I mean, as I was telling you, if you count the additional pounds and the extra gray hairs and wrinkles, if you think that looks good, well, so be it. You may have to update your picture on your advertisement.
You're too young to have gray hairs and those things. That's what me and Dr. Rose.
So it comes with the job.
To my co-host, Dr. Rose, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you. Welcome, Minister Rodrigues, to the program. It's a pleasure having you here, at least for the second time.
Thank you.
Minister, since last time we spoke on this program, a lot of things happened. As we know, Exxon have discovered more oil and gas in the Stabroek block they're in. Investors are coming to Guyana like crazy. The president recently returned from that very successful trip in Dubai, and it seems to be, based on what we're seeing in social media and the pictures, a lot of excitement about Guyana. So tell us, how active is your ministry in trying to get all these people and meet all these different investors, because everyone seems to want to do something in Guyana?
Thank you, Mr. Sugrim, Dr. Rose. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I always say, anytime anyone asks me that question, that this is an exciting time for Guyana, and this is an exciting time to be Guyanese. And I am extremely honored to be holding public office during this period, because it is a period of such great transformation. A transformation that you can actually see and smell and touch and feel. And it's a great honor to be able to participate in it and to be able to make policies and implement programs that will bring great benefit to all Guyanese across all income brackets. And no better ministry to be able to bring that development than the Ministry of Housing and Water. So from the time I was given responsibility for housing and water, I accepted the huge challenge. We have big shoes to fill because the president, is the former Minister of Housing and Water. So we have big shoes to fill. He himself had a very ambitious housing program. And now we have taken on a task that is even greater than what we did prior to 2015. And so the task may be large, but we know how to get it done. We have competent, capable, experienced people. And in addition to that, we have some young blood like myself who are full of energy and motivated to get the work done. Now, this is a very active ministry. When we took over, we had to reestablish the ministry, because you may recall it was a department under the Ministry of Communities during the last administration. And so we had to build it back from the ground up. It was lethargic. The housing sector had almost collapsed under the APNU administration. And so we had to breathe new life into it. We had to restore the housing sector to what it once was under the PPP administration. And we are committed to that task. And I think we are well on our way to achieving all of the targets that we set out in our manifesto. The good thing is that we have had our manifesto for a while. We know what the targets are. We know what promises we made to the people, and they elected us on those commitments and on those promises. And we have a responsibility and an obligation to ensure that we deliver on all of those targets and on all of our commitments.
Minister, you actually preempted my question. You alluded to the fact that the president was the former Minister of Housing. And here in New York, your substantive minister, Minister Kroll, he actually repeated that same comment when he was asked to speak at a function, that you cannot fool the president in what is going on, because he knows exactly what is going on in that ministry. So it becomes a little more challenging for you guys. But Minister, not too long ago, we had the former CEO of GWI under the coalition, and he told us that he left GWI a very sound entity. They had enough receivables to pay all of their debt because the receivables was owed by the government. He had a plan to bring GWI into a 21st century operation, but he's saying now that your current CEO is taking it back to the rusty old days. What do you have to say?
Well, Mr. Van Westchilds can say whatever he wishes to say, but what I will provide you with is the fact of the matter. And the fact of the matter is, when we left GWI 2015, the staff complement was 600. When we took over in August of 2020, it had more than doubled that. GWI owed GPL a debt of $7 billion. The operational costs from May of 2015 to August of 2020 had increased by $1.1 billion. The GWI bank accounts had decreased by $1.8 billion. The company owed its suppliers and creditors $800 million approximately. 2 bank overdrafts of $270 million. And this is just on the financial side. Then in terms of operation, there was not a single meter in the inventory. Basic spare parts, pumps, PVC fittings, connections, zero. The inventory was empty. And this is in addition now to the squandermania that was going on at GWI, the lavish staff parties and the expensive overseas trips. These are the facts. This is the state, the financial state in which we found the company in. There were 5,200 outstanding applications for water connections, 5,200 in August of 2020. And we couldn't make a single connection because the inventory was completely depleted. So there were no connections, there were no meters to install. So immediately in our 2020 budget, we had to start to restock that inventory so we can bring down, so we can start to respond to our customers so that we can make those connections so people can actually have access to water. So Van West Charles can say whatever he feels like saying, but the facts remain, and these can all be checked and verified. Also, there has not been any audited financial statement from the company since 2016. Since 2016, no further audits were done under the APNU administration and under the leadership of Van West Charles. Earlier this year, we completed the audit for 2017, and then only recently, well, we haven't completed it as yet. We're almost to the end of completing 2018. So those are the facts. Then Van West Charles himself was personally embroiled in the Sequest scandal, which is the chemical that he was sole sourcing from an individual overseas and having a direct financial transaction with the individual, which that arrangement we have since terminated. And that, I think, was close to $1 billion that is missing from the company. There are no receipts or no payments to prove that we had actually received this chemical for the monies that were transferred. So that's the fact of the matter. These are the facts. So that would be my response to Van West Charles. And as much, I mean, he constantly tries to speak about GWI in a way like it's some sort of utopia, but we've had to really bring back that company and build it back from the ground up. We have cut out a lot of wastage. We've restructured the company. We have been able to reduce that backlog of outstanding applications down to 200 from over 5,000. And we have developed a strategic plan for 2021 to 2025. Notably, none of the targets that were in the strategic plan under Van West Charles' leadership were achieved. And, you know, I'm sorry, I don't have that plan here right now, where we could have spent some time and go through his strategic plan. But one of them was to reduce, one of the targets in his strategic plan was to reduce non-revenue water. And with no meters in the inventory, there was no metering program under his leadership. And there were also 2 tariff increases in October 2018 and October 2019, putting a heavy burden on consumers. We have since tried to reduce tariffs on water. So that is the legacy of Van West Charles. It was poor leadership. It was massive mismanagement, corruption, and just poor leadership all around.
Okay, Minister, I'm glad you have given us the, and I would think it's very factual for what you have just said, because if I can recall, you have mentioned some of those things exactly the same way in our last meeting with you. But 2 things you did not address, Minister, is one is that, well, let me say the first one, he mentioned that he increased the staff complement because of his plan to give better quality service to the, the recipient, the customers. That's one. Secondly, he said the receivables, which you did not address, was sufficient to cover all the debt that GWI has. Is that so?
Well, it's not true, because they still had this huge amount of debt. They also, the administration, the APNU government did not give GWI any subvention, so they could not pay their electricity bill, and the receivables were just in and out. It was being wasted on paying staff who were not servicing the company. We have nothing against increasing staff. We know that over time, of course, the demands change, demand is increased, and so you need to increase your staff complement in order to respond and to give good service to your customers. That wasn't the issue. The issue was that despite this huge amount of staff that you have, that people still had complaints all around the country. Poor service, people had outstanding connections, poor water quality, so bad level of service. There were over 5,000 leaks that we had to tend to, major leaks that we had to fix immediately when we came into office. 20,000 minor leaks, and we have made a note and we have recorded all of this work that we have done since we took office. So then if you're claiming that you needed the staff to produce better service to your customers, then that should not have been the state that we found the company in. But that was the reality of what we inherited.
Okay, Minister, before Dr. Rose comes on, one thing I want to, you mentioned the audited financial statements is way back in 2017. That has been the pattern of government agencies. You know, we talk about the teachers union, the same thing, that their audited statement is way back and so on. Compare that to the private sector. They're up to date with their audited statement. And I'm saying that to ask you this question. Is the government considering privatizing GWI?
No, we're not considering that.
Okay.
It is always important to have government oversight. Some things like housing and water, I think it is too risky for free market or for private sector to take over these sectors. I think it needs government oversight in order to protect consumers from exploitation, and also to ensure that all of this, the service remains affordable and that people are treated with equality. And I think we can only achieve that through government implemented programs.
I think my friend Rodrigues will totally agree with you there. Dr. Rose, over to you.
Good night, Ms. Rodrigues.
Dr. Rose.
You have laid out all the problems with the water company. Is it making a profit now, or the government has to subsidize it still?
Well, the government had traditionally, under our government, have traditionally subsidized. What we subsidize is the electricity costs. So apart from that, the company pays its own bills. And yes, we have improved the financial position of the company. We have taken care of our bank overdrafts. We are up to date with payments to our suppliers. And we have developed a strategic plan going forward from 2021 to 2025, of which we have some ambitious targets. And like our manifesto, the people can hold us accountable for that. So when you look also at the financial position of the company, 2019 as compared to 2020, we have increased revenue in 2020, and for 2021, we have already surpassed the revenue for 2020. So we are doing better from a financial standpoint. And of course, we have to match that with the delivery of the service to our customers. Yes, we want to reduce non-revenue water. When we took over last year, it was at 70%. And, you know, if you're running a company, you want to make sure that you can reduce your losses. And so we embarked on an ambitious metering program. We ordered 26,000 meters last year, and for this year, 14,000. These have been delivered, and we are in the process of getting these installed. But that's not the only way that you reduce your non-revenue water. You also ensure that you prevent wastage and you repair your leaks, etc. And all of that reduces your non-revenue water. On the other side, we also have to ensure that our supply is good, that the citizens receive quality water. And for that, we also have a plan we have a proposal to construct 19 new water treatment plants in our strategic plan by 2025, because all of the water that we distribute, 52% of that water is treated water. And we want to increase that within our first term to 90%. So all of the water that we deliver, 90% of that, we want to move to treated water coverage. And that is an important target for us. Immediately, we recently received funding from the Caribbean Development Bank under the Water Sector Enhancement Project for about $42 million US. And we are immediately starting with the construction of 6 new water treatment plants. So between this year and next year, you will see the construction of 6 new water treatment plants in regions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So while we want to improve the financial position of the company, we also have to ensure that we deliver safe, quality water to our citizens with a good level of service in keeping with Sustainable Development Goal 6, access to clean and safe water.
Okay. The next question I will ask you then, do you expect GWI to make a profit or to even break even at any time in the future?
I think breaking even would be the position that we would aim for. So by 2025, we're hoping to reduce our non-revenue water, for example, to about 50% with our metering program and with ensuring that we service our network and so on. But breaking even is important as long as we can pay our bills and we can deliver good quality water to our citizens. That would be a desirable position to be on. If we make a profit after that, then there's no harm done.
Okay. Now I want to turn to housing. You have been in a frenzy, or the department, your ministry has been in a frenzy giving out house lots to people. How many house lots have you given out so far within the first year of this government? And can you compare to that to APNU? How many they gave out within the first year?
The first year of the APNU administration was a few months in 2020, and if I recall, it was about 212, I think. I looked at the numbers if I could remember correctly. Just over 200. We have but in their 5 years, in fairness to them, they gave out 7,500 house lots. But we have already surpassed what they have done in 5 years in our first year in office. We have already distributed over 8,500, and every day we are making allocations. It's not just when we make those big announcements, but we're also allocating people every day and reducing that backlog. You know, we inherited a huge backlog of about 70,000 applications when we came in August 2020. And like I said, the housing sector had almost collapsed. And so we had to rebuild it. We had to start from scratch. No new lands were acquired under the APNU administration. And so we had to start back from acquisition to design, to surveys, to design, and getting to allocations and making the necessary budgetary allocations so we can commence infrastructure works. And so we had to start chasing our targets, and still we had to ensure that we made service lots available for the people who they had allocated as well. From January to August of 2020, they had distributed 1,987 house lots for which no infrastructure work was done. Against all of the rumors and all of the attempts to misguide people, we have not rescinded or repossessed a single house lot. So we have honored all of the allocations that they made. These were ordinary Guyanese. I mean, some of them, they are some of their people that they slipped in, but that's fine. We were not going to go on a witch hunt. We had work to do, and we had to start the infrastructure in 2020, the infrastructure works in those areas that they had allocated over approximately 2,000 lots. And so the 2020 budgetary allocation for infrastructure works went towards making those lots available and also to open new areas and new lots for our first 10,000.
Okay. Can you tell me or tell our listeners how these house lots are being distributed? The lower class, middle class, upper middle class, what are the proportions of house lots being given out to each class? Do you have that?
So when we did an analysis of the applications that we have in our system, 75% of all of our applicants are low-income applicants. So it means, therefore, that the emphasis or the main focus had to be making lands available for low-income earners because they made up the bulk of the outstanding applications that we have. And so you saw consecutive allocation or Dream Realize flagship program, consecutive programs where we only exclusively distributed low-income lots. We did so on the East Coast, we did so on the East Bank, we did so in Region 2, and we did so in Region 3 very early on. And these were several thousands of strictly low-income lots. So that is where our main attention is, giving assistance to our vulnerable population, those who need it the most. But also, we have more categories. So we have the moderate income earners, we have the middle income earners, and of course, you have high income earners. And so we try to make house lots available for them as well. The moderate income is quite a large number in proportion to the middle and high income earners. But our primary focus is making house lots available for low income people. We also want to make sure that we address the issue of squatting. And I don't want to preempt you, but I guess I assume that you're going to ask about that as well. So, but let me just stick to your question for now. So our focus, therefore, has been on the low-income earners. And in the designing of our schemes, we also make lands available for commercial activity, industrial activity, and we leave reserved spaces for recreational facilities, schools, hospitals, etc. So that our housing schemes can be comprehensive. It can resemble a neighborhood, and with the access to commercial and industrial activity, people can find work right where they live, and people can be encouraged with access to these facilities to take up their house lots, because we have had, we've been plagued by a practice whereby people receive their lots and then continue to rent or live in another area, and they don't occupy that house lot. And that has a lot of trickle-down effects, one of it being that we cannot, as a government, continue to develop the roads and the drainage, for example, in that area, install streetlights and so on, where there is zero occupancy, or on streets where there's nobody living. So it's a two-pronged approach. We need people to occupy their house lots, and with that, we will be able to complete our infrastructure works in that area and then go through the process of handing over these communities to the NDCs or local authorities for them to then assume the management of it, and people can pay their taxes, their rates and taxes, and get the services from their local authorities. So that would be the ideal situation, and those are all the steps that I laid out for you there. And that's what we're hoping for, that once we equipped these communities with all of this infrastructure and access to utilities and commercial activities, that people can occupy, can live their dream of owning their own home, and then we can be able to upgrade all of our housing schemes so that people can be encouraged to go live there.
Quickly, before my colleague Charles jump in, what are the minimum qualifications required for someone to obtain a house lot?
You have to be Guyanese and you have to be age of 21. That's all. That's the only qualification. You don't have to jump through hoops. There's no major eligibility. As long as you are Guyanese and you've reached the age of 21, you submit your application. We have an online platform that we have improved significantly, so people can apply online, and there'd be no need for them to come into the ministry, or you can still come in and fill up your physical application form, drop it into us, and we will process that. Significantly, we have received about approximately 13,600 applications from August 2020 to now, and that's a record number. The ministry has never received that many applications before, and we've been able to interview all of these new applicants as well, because usually you would submit the application and then you'd be waiting to be called for your interview, and that takes some time as well. But our departments have been working over time. I always acknowledge the work of the staff here, the public servants at the ministry and at CHPA, because they've been doing a tremendous job. We can make policy all day long, but we need people to understand our vision, and we need people to execute this vision. And I think the public servants in the Ministry of Housing and Water, CHPA, has been doing a fantastic job in helping us to execute that vision.
So you don't need a job in order to apply to get a house lot?
No, if you can submit an affidavit, say that you, for example, if you're receiving support from a family member overseas or right here in Guyana, and you can show proof of payment, let's say a Western Union receipt or something, we can use that. As long as you can prove that you have a stream of income in order for you to pay for your house lot, you can be processed.
Charles, you heard that? Over to you.
And before we go to break, Minister, just want to clarify one thing. You mentioned Guyanese, 21 years and over, eligible for a house lot. Does that Guyanese include those who live overseas?
Yes, of course.
So all Guyanese, once you have a birth certificate, Dr. Rose is a US citizen, he's a Canadian citizen, he's a French citizen, he's a British citizen. He can apply for a house lot in Guyana as well?
Yes, he can apply for a house lot, as long as he does not own property, though. That's another consideration. This is a government subsidized program, and if you have property that you own prior to receiving your allocation from the ministry, then you are disbarred from making that application.
Own property where? In Guyana or outside of Guyana?
Well, I mean, if you tell me it's outside of Guyana, I might think differently, but usually it's in Guyana.
Okay.
So anyone who has a property in their name or land, they are not eligible for these house lots?
No. Even if you own it jointly with somebody else, you're not eligible.
So here you Guyanese, if you're overseas or you're in Guyana, if you do not own a house lot or a property in Guyana, if you're 21 years and older and of course you're Guyanese, Minister is telling you today you can apply for a house lot. Minister,
and don't tell the minister you own properties overseas.
Minister, we'll go to a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue this lovely discussion. Audience, don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Globespan Alaska Cruise is available from May 29th to June 5th, 2022. Enjoy an unbelievable experience with a 7-night multi-glacier cruise. Travel through a beautiful land on a world-class ship and visit the famous Alaskan glaciers up close. This cruise departs from Vancouver and enjoy a tour to several different ports. At the end, you will also have an opportunity for a city tour. Call Globespan today to book your trip, with affordable payment plans available. In New York, call 212-243-0865. Georgetown, call 227-1701. Berbice, call 337-4287. Trinidad, call 645-1604. Travel plans? Call Globespan, serving you for 27 plus years.
Are you missing homemade food, snacks, drinks, roti and curries, or have a busy schedule? Then get your favorite curries and roti delivered directly to your home with all from one supplier. Come order your duck, goat, or chicken, fully cooked and ready to eat with dal puri or bus up shut. We also now have chicken tikka masala or lamb vindaloo available with regular naan or garlic naan. Don't forget to add your solo, icy, coconut water, or Nestle drinks to these delicious meals. Select your choice, and load your box and let allfromonesupplier.com deliver directly to your home. All From One Supplier has you covered for all your food. Plus if you need pepper sauce, curry powders, fish, meat, ghee, and so much more. We also have tasty pastries like pine tarts, cheese rolls, currants rolls, coconut rolls and so much more. Sales are ongoing every week, and your first order is 10% off once you apply the coupon code, Globespan24x7. Log on to allfromonesupplier.com today and purchase. Allfromonesupplier.com is your one-stop shop for all West Indian items, and remember it's free shipping to all US states.
Folks, the Nest Restaurant is the place to dine for Guyanese and Caribbean dishes. It is the best restaurant in Queens, the staff is courteous, and Dave the owner is always there to welcome you. So for a memorable dining experience, visit the Nest Restaurant located at 12717 101 Avenue, South Richmond Hill. Go and make a reservation today, or takeout, call 718-847-4035.
Welcome back to our audience and to all of you. We want to thank Minister for being so eloquent with us today. And Barry Minister, and you have a lot of good friends out there because of a lot of comments on the view tonight that Minister is, you really know exactly what you're doing. Minister, before we go on to another area, just to reconfirm what you just said, even overseas-based Guyanese who do not have a property in Guyana, they can apply online for a house lot. And are they interviewed through Skype or somewhere or through?
Well, they have to come. They have to present themselves in person in order to receive their allocation. We were doing Zoom calls but this was a response or a mechanism to cope with COVID-19 and to keep people safe.
Pandemic. Okay.
Yeah. And but we have since desist from doing that. So you still have to come in and come in person for your interview, as well as you have to come in person for your allocation and to pay for your house lot and so on. And of course, we would want you to when you sign your agreement of sale, one of the conditions is that you must construct on that plot of land.
And for proof of income, they have to bring their tax return, their W-2. If they're from the US, for instance, in Canada have a different arrangement or different.
Yes, you can produce an affidavit listing your source of income. Okay. And we will accept that.
Prime Minister, before we go on, I just want to go back a little in water, if you don't mind. In the news recently, as you know, they had published the names of all the top executives in GWI. And it seems to be, well, that seems, from the report, it was all male. Dr. Van West Charles did indicate that most of the students who go to UG for that kind of work are all males. He was trying to change that mix so that female students can go to UG and be qualified in the waterworks. What action is being taken, if any, by the government to change that configuration of only male being top executive GWI and to encourage our female folks to secure those jobs as well?
Well, certainly it is an undesirable situation. And I recall the very first day on the job when I went for a tour of GWI, I was meeting with the management, and I was asked to take, at the end of the meeting, I was asked to take a picture with management. And it was after that, when we were gathering around to take that photograph, is when it struck me that I was the only woman in the photograph. And so sometimes these things are not obvious or apparent to us. But it was that moment that I realized that, okay, we're going to have to put some things in place to change that. And so we have discussed several things, like a quota system, for example, like some of the developed countries, ensuring that there's a quota of women and a mix of ethnicities and so on. I saw we had a good mix of ethnicity, but we still were not able to have women in the top executive positions. And so we will look at that. I have to meet the board of GWI. I do plan to address the board and to ask them to put some kind of mechanism in place that we can give women more space on that executive. I'm interested in hearing from them as to their process in terms of their appointments. And so I'm sure that we can come to some sort of arrangement to be able to address that and to have more women in top management at GWI.
And I know, and the answer that Dr. Van West Charles gave bothers me because, I mean, things like management, a lot of female in management, accounting,
Yeah.
So why does the
it's
top...
certainly not a lack of skill with
Right.
the female gender. I just don't think enough has been done in order to solicit them or to encourage them to come to the company. And I'm sure we can easily address that, where there are a lot of competent women out there. We have at CHPA, for example, a lot of female engineers. And, one would argue that even that is not a traditional sector for women. But we have been able to find university graduates, female university graduates, whom we have employed at CHPA. So there is certainly more that can be done at GWI to address that situation.
Yeah, and I hope, Minister, during your stint there, before you become president, that you can have that, straightened out. Minister, let's get back to housing. I got a report today from someone who I know very well saying that since 2009, application was made for house lot and they're still waiting for interview. What do you tell those people?
Well, let me just go through some things with you. So when I check the system, for example, if I'm having a public day or I am at a public event and people bring these applications to me that even as far back as the year 2000, when I come back to office and I inquire as to why this person, for example, does not have up to today an allocation, there is almost always an explanation. So I would find that they were already previously allocated. Most times, that's the situation. they were previously allocated, but for some reason or another, they didn't take up the offer. Either they couldn't afford it at the time, or they didn't approve of the area in which they were allocated, and so they didn't come to take up the offer. And they don't tell you this until you come back and you find that out, and then you say, but you were allocated in the year 2005, for example, and oh yes, I didn't take it up because I couldn't afford it then. So there's always an explanation. Of course, also we encourage people to update their information. A lot of times we find that when we pull from that backlog, when we have allocations, and we pull from that backlog, let's say we're going to applications before 2010. Most of the times when you pull that backlog, you can't get on to the people. So they either move away, they've changed their information. And so I went on a lot of platforms very early in our tenure, on radio and television, urging people to come into the ministry and to update your applications. Ensure that you provide us with your current contact information, so that when we pull our list for allocation, that we can reach you. Many times when I look at the reports of the number of people that were pulled, the number of people that we made contact with, the number of people that have wrong number, or phone is ringing out, or it's a lot. And so people have not been coming in to update their applications. That's in the past. What I've noticed is that people were listening. And so when I went on radio and television and we were sensitizing the public as to what they need to do, we saw a huge response. And I used to see people lined up at the ministry all the way down Brickdam, especially on my public day, all the way down Camp Street. And people came, people responded. People saw the rejuvenation in the sector. People were confident that we are going to deliver on our commitments, and so they responded. And we have had many thousands of people update from last year to now. So they've been paying attention, and they've been following instructions and coming in and updating, and we've been able to be up to date with our allocations. And we know that it is working, because when I look outside now on a Monday morning or on a Tuesday morning, I see a significantly reduced number of people coming to the ministry. So it means that we're doing something right.
In the year of your minister, what percentage of our population at this point in time really need to have a house lot to take away the problems that we have in the home where, parents live with children and so on? What percent do you think might need a house lot to eradicate that issue?
Well, I can't give you an estimation. I can tell you what we have in our system. And now we after the allocations that we have made, we've been able to reduce that by close to 10,000. So we have about 60,000 applicants in our system now. And, we often hear people say, my son applied and I don't want him to go far and all of these things, but we have to allocate on a first come, first serve basis. That is government's policy. Okay. And so, but, I think that if we were to achieve our target, and we will achieve our target of 50,000 lots by 2025, we can see our application and allocation system be up to date, where people can make an application and be allocated their house lot in the same year, for example. Okay. And then it will become those who are ready financially to receive their allocation and to construct their own homes. So I think by 2025 we can get to that place and we can be able to satisfy the demand in the housing sector.
Excellent. Minister, before Dr. Rose come on, I know I asked you this question the last time that you were on, that we are now an oil and gas country. And eventually, right now, most of the homes, they go and buy the cylinder gas from Docal or whoever it's the distribute those gas. But there will come a time when we'll have to move up to the ladder, and maybe like Trinidad or like Barbados, or of course here in the US and North America and Europe and so on, where there's on the ground lines for gas. I know it's a very costly investment, infrastructural work, but eventually we have to go that way. I asked Minister Kroll here in New York if your ministry is considering it, and he says they have talked about it, and hopefully that will be in the plan soon. If that is in the plan, how soon from now do you think the new development areas that you will start putting lines in for gas, knowing that the existing house that you give out, once houses are built there and infrastructure is set up, it becomes extremely difficult to run gas line, except you dig up the roads maybe and through the roads. Other than that, it might be very difficult.
Yes, in any developed country that already can produce that type of gas, natural gas to the home, you would need that infrastructure. But as it is right now, that is not in our immediate plan. We'll have to see how the plans in the oil and gas sector progress. And that is in very capable hands of our Vice President. And so we will leave that up to him. But when that time comes and it becomes a policy that all of our homes in our housing schemes have to be equipped with gas pipelines, that will then form part of our housing program. As it is right now, the utilities that we provide, in addition to the infrastructure, drainage, roads, we have to run the electrical distribution network and the water distribution network. So that is our program as it is right now, and any changes in the future in terms of the delivery of gas to the home, that will then form part of our program.
What about sewer lines? Is sewer lines part of the development now as well, or people have to build their own septic tank?
Yes, people in our housing schemes, people build their own septic tanks. And I think people have a preference for that as well, because I know people in Georgetown complain a lot about the central sewer system. So people seem to, at least for now, prefer to have their own individual septic tank. And that can last for years before you have to clean that tank.
Okay, Dr. Rose?
Minister, I will advise you not to answer this question, but this gentleman sent me that you cater for only human beings in houses. What about his 3 dogs and his 2 horses? Can he have a house, not to build a house for them? Don't answer. I don't know what. I had to read the question up to you, but you don't have to answer it.
That is on the live.
It's a good laugh. Minister, coming back to water, there are many fire hydrants in Georgia that don't have water supply. In case of a fire, they're dried. Why is that still?
So historically, there was some misconception and some confusion as to which agency exactly is responsible for the installation and maintenance of fire hydrants. So, and there was a report of the Discipline Services Commission dating back to 2004 that spoke about this ambiguity when it comes to who is responsible. Under the APNU administration, when we came in, I noticed that that GWI had installed some hydrants that had not been functioning. But we embarked on an exercise, and we put together a committee, local government, housing, fire service, home affairs, and this meeting was convened by His Excellency because it's something that we wanted to address once and for all. And coming out of that consultation, what we agreed to is that the Guyana Fire Service would be responsible for the installation and maintenance of fire hydrants, and that it would be GWI's responsibility to ensure that the lines always have water, that the hydrants are serviced with water, so that in the case of a fire, there is no throwing of blame. We all met and we agreed that this is going to be the approach. Since then, we have embarked on a mapping exercise to locate all of the fire hydrants in the city. So we've started with Georgetown, and we found over 600 hydrants, and we're sure that there's more out there. And we've been jointly with the fire service and GWI and the Ministry of Home Affairs. We have a joint operation, and GWI has been facilitating the service and maintenance of these hydrants. But our responsibility, after we have mapped all of the hydrants and serviced all of them, our responsibility then would only be to ensure that the lines always have water in them, and it would be the responsibility of the fire service to ensure that the hydrants itself are always maintained. Because what took place in the past too, when GWI tried to install hydrants, you found that the connections and so on were mismatched. The connections on the hydrants were not compatible with the hoses from the fire service. So it only made sense that the fire service assumed responsibility for that. And GWI, which is the water utility company, always ensure that the lines have water in them.
Minister Rodrigues, I want to turn to something that has been affecting a lot of people. You know, there have been a spate of fires especially in the city over the past year, 2 years or so. And most of them stem from electrical problems. It has been common practice for someone to have a single family dwelling. And let's say that person have a main entrance panel, electrical panel of, let's say, 100 amperes. That person might now extend that house and add a portion onto it, and for a family member to live or to rent it out to have extra income, and to use the same amount of electricity coming in from that same panel, which could cause overloading. Have the inspectors been inspecting these homes to make sure that the electricity is adequate? And two, smoke alarms. Are new houses having smoke alarms, or commercial buildings having smoke alarm detectors? And commercial sprinklers, are these housing codes being adhered to in Guyana?
Well, in terms of the electricity to private houses or commercial properties, these are the responsibility of the occupiers. The occupants of the houses and the businesses, they have a responsibility to ensure that if they add to the network, that they have enough ampage to be able to take that on. Because I notice what happens a lot, people go and add on an air condition without increasing the voltage that is coming to the house. But I'm not sure that falls under my remit. So that is a personal responsibility. Once someone has acquired their connection to their home, which the inspection usually happens during construction, once that inspector leaves and somebody goes and adds on extra appliances like an air conditioning unit, for example, they run the risk of causing a fire and harming themselves and their neighbors. So that is their responsibility. people adhering to building codes. We know that people always violate building codes. We try as much and as far as possible where we are invited to go and inspect. For example, applications that come to our CHPA board for construction and planning permits. We always send our officers to ensure that the building codes are being adhered to, that the setback boundaries, for example, are adhered to before we can give the permit. And you know, people say as well, we have said, look, that Guyana is open for business. And I think if you look at the numbers, you may hear Dr. Rose and Mr. Sugrim, sometimes people say it's hard to do business in Guyana, but they're just expressing an opinion. But I think if you look at the numbers that have been coming out from our board, the amount of planning permissions and building permits, for example, that have been coming out from our board, you can see that we have been responding to the overwhelming amount of applications that we have been receiving at our board. And we've been able to approve about 85% of all of the applications that we have been receiving. So it's a very business-friendly climate. And in that planning permission system, it falls under us to go to inspect those buildings. And we ensure that we do that before we give permission for construction.
Okay, now inspectors, building inspectors, I'm not sure this is accurate, but I was told over 95% of the building inspectors that inspect electrical panels, plumbing, and so forth are male. From your department, is that true?
I wouldn't be able to respond to that at this time.
Okay. Okay. Now, let's go to something else now. Housing. When a house is being constructed, let's say the person received the land and the construction starts, and that construction stops for, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Will the government intervene and ask this person why you not continue building to complete your house, or we'll have to get the land back from you? Some people just put a structure up there and leave it at that.
Yes, that has been a problem for us. When you receive your agreement of sale, you receive your allocation first, and then you receive your agreement of sale, and then after that, you receive your title. Now, in the agreement of sale, you are required to begin construction within 6 months, or I think it's 12 months. You are required to begin construction during that time. Once you have paid off for your house lot, we process your title. And once you have acquired your title, now you know our property laws are very strict, and the right to affordable housing is enshrined in our Constitution. And when you hold a transport or a title, it is indefeasible. And so once you have acquired that certificate of title or that transport, nobody can take that away from you. And so we cannot go around repossessing people's land. It's not legal. We will not be able to do that. It is a situation that we wish to discourage. We want to ensure that we get all of our people to home ownership. Yes, we did commit to delivering 50,000 house lots, but from the time we took office, our primary focus has been on getting people to home ownership. And it's not just something that we've been saying. We have implemented policies to ensure that we can help both the demand and the supply side. So we've been making house lots available. On the demand side, we've been responding to that, and we've lowered taxes. We have removed taxes from building and construction materials so that it can become more affordable for people to own their own homes. We have negotiated with the banks, and the banks have now lowered interest rates to 4%. We have increased the mortgage interest relief ceiling from 15 million to 30 million. And that, is a deduction. The interest paid on your mortgage is a deduction that you can claim from the GRA. And that is a policy that the Barbadians who were recently here, who only departed this morning, they were intrigued by that policy of mortgage interest relief, and they said it may be something that they can take back to Barbados, because it's a great incentive for people to acquire their own home, to get that mortgage, and to be able to build their own homes. And we are helping people in that process as well. A lot of people who work, professionals, for example, they have to be at work all day. They don't have time to focus on constructions. And a lot of people have never constructed anything. And they are taken advantage of by contractors. And so many people are coming to us now and saying, we prefer to purchase the house, because they have seen the work that we've been doing. And then we have options. We have the low income option. We have the moderate income option. We have the young professional option. So people now are finding it both easier and more affordable to acquire a home from the Ministry of Housing, as opposed to just receiving their house lot. And in that way, we are encouraging home ownership. We are encouraging occupancy in our housing schemes, because once we start the construction of homes, it gets the ball rolling and starts to get people into those housing schemes earlier. And when people see activities and people see that other people are occupying and the neighborhood is thriving, that will encourage others to take up their allocation as well. So these are all measures that we have put in place to encourage people to construct their homes and to be able to realize their dreams of owning their own home as opposed to renting.
Okay, a quick question for you here. You said your ministry, and by extension the government, plans to give out 50,000 house lots by 2025. What percentage of those house lots going to the Amerindian communities?
Well, the house lot program is mostly centered, yes, on the coastal regions, so 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The Amerindian communities are more unique because they have land title. They have the Amerindian land titling program. And so the lands in our hinterland communities are already owned by our Amerindian community. So those are not lands that government can give out. They're already owned by our Amerindians. And so what we are proposing is that during 2022, we can try to restart our hinterland housing program. Under our hinterland program, it's not focused on land allocation, but it's focused mostly on construction of homes. So we also have a hinterland housing model, which is mostly made of timber, and we try to get the materials to the various communities. We allocate a certain amount of houses that will be constructed based on the demand in the hinterland communities, which is 1, 7, 8, and 10. Sorry, 1, 7, 8, and 9. And we will engage the village councils and our Amerindian people to construct those homes and also compensate them for doing so. So they can feel a sense of pride that we can create employment in those communities, give people a sense of purpose, and they can be able to construct and have access to housing but not in the traditional sense of an allocation. But the land, like I said, is already owned by the Amerindian communities.
You heard about Silica City, which the president wanted to construct. Is your ministry involved in that in any way?
Yes, we are very involved in Silica City. Silica City is an idea that the president had since he was here at the ministry as housing minister. He is very passionate about building Silica City, and you know our president is very ambitious and he's very determined, and I am certain that he will see the realization of Silica City. It will be a city like no other that we have designed so far. So we are actively working on that. Our surveyors and our planners are actively working on Silica City, and we're going to try to get people to invest and encourage people to want to move to Silica City. You know, we are looking for higher ground, so we're contemplating an area on the Linden-Soos-Dyke Highway in response to flooding, and also to encourage people to take up allocations outside of the city. And therefore, this will be a good complement to the infrastructure network that we are also embarked on, this huge infrastructure network that we are constructing and we are transforming the landscape of Guyana. And so Silica City will, once the completion of the infrastructure program that is being executed by the Ministry of Public Works, as well as the Ministry of Housing, people can be able to travel with ease from Georgetown to Silica City, and they can work in the city and still live outside of the city, but will be able to commute with ease.
Thanks, Minister. Charles?
Minister, before we move on to that, I know Dr. Rose mentioned about the electrical problem. Is there a code for electrical cables that is rigidly, monitored and to ensure it, it is what is used in the houses? Because what I'm told is that one, people are stealing electricity, which we know that's still happening. They're running wires all over the place. And also, I'm not bashing the Chinese, but they're using cheap Chinese cables to run the electrical wiring in their home. Is that so? And is there a rigid policy to have specific cables in the homes?
Yes, of course, there are specifications in terms of electrical wires and so on. As to the specification, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm not an electrician. I don't have that technical knowledge, but yes, there are specific codes and specific types and size of electrical wires that have to be run to the home.
And the inspectors who will have to give the clearance before the meter is in place, they'll have to verify that the right cables are used. In your view, you think that is happening, or the guys are just passing the buck?
Well, that comes under the Guyana Power and Light. That does not fall under the Ministry of Housing and Water. What we do is procure the electrical materials, and we give out a contract. We give out contracts for the installation of the electrical network in the communities, which is basically the electrical infrastructure work.
But not
the connection from the poles to the home is done by GPL.
I got you, Minister. There are some remarks on the social media tonight that one person had to wait almost 8 hours, from 8 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the ministry. And why does someone have to come and wait all those hours there to get something done?
Well, people are coming to the ministry for various reasons. So it's It depends on what you are coming to do. That may take either a few minutes or can take a few hours. If you are coming to do your interview, for example, and there are other people ahead of you, you know, an interview with one person takes some time. You have to produce your documents, there are questions that you have to answer, the staff have to input that into the system. So these things take time. I'm not denying that people do not come to the ministry and spend several hours to get their business conducted, but we have been able to reduce that significantly, and I did allude to that earlier on in the program when I said I see a reduced number of people coming to the ministry now. And that's because we've been able to service people, that people who have been coming to the ministry constantly to query their applications, for example, have received their allocations, especially those old applicants. And so we see a reduced number of people coming. People are doing business at the ministry now with more ease and more confidence. We still have a long way to go, and we will get there. And in being able to deliver this service to the people in terms of house lot allocation, we still have to ensure that we deliver good service here at the ministry when they come to us. And I recall a few weeks ago, the head of an agency came to submit his application, and I was very impressed when he called me and he said, I didn't call you before I came in. I wanted to come and test your system, but I'm calling you now that I've completed my transaction. And he said he was able to come in and got his business taken care of with ease. And so those types of reports are becoming more frequent now. And it's very pleasing to know that, you know, we've been doing some things right. He told me how friendly the staff were, how helpful they were. They gave him directions where he needed to go next. So we've been trying to improve the delivery of our customer service at the same time being able to deliver house lots. So it is a work in progress, but it is constantly engaging us, and we are constantly aware that we have to provide good service to our people. You know, people always say, oh, when you have to go to a ministry or a government agency, you have to put aside an entire day. Well, we hope that in the near future that we can be able to change that culture. And I know, for example, when we have staff meetings, I do say that to the staff. I do tell them, I said, look, we won't be able to give somebody a house lot every time they come through the door. But at least when they leave here, they must feel like somebody listened to them. They must feel like they got individual attention. They must leave with the assurance that their application is acknowledged, and they must be given at least some time frame as to when we will get back to them. And if they can at least leave here knowing that they receive good service and that people actually care about their issues, that can help to make somebody feel good by the time they leave the ministry. Even if they leave without a house lot, they must leave with the confidence of knowing that we will call them, that we have all the information, and that their turn is coming soon.
Okay, and Minister, you know, when people want something, they want it almost immediately, you know, and it takes time. And I know our culture in Guyana, it's a relaxing culture in most cases. But Dr. Rose been asking this question all the time, is the lunch hour for your staff? Do your staff have flexible lunch hours so that someone is always there to take care of the public when they come in during the lunch period?
Yes.
Okay.
That is something that we did not have to wait on any kind of policy change or anything. We have always said to the staff that cashiers have to always be available, interviewers have to always be available. We have enough staff for them to rotate their lunch hours. So there is no point in the day or during working hours where the ministry is shut down.
Okay.
We are always
Minister.
there to respond to people when they come into the ministry.
Excellent. And for those, I know, Minister, you're clear tonight, but just to be clearer, for those who applied for a house lot and they have not yet heard from the ministry in terms of when they will get it or whatever it is, what is the time frame from application to the delivery house lot? In your view, is it 6 months? Is it 10 months? Is it a year? How long is that process?
So, to be frank with you, we haven't gotten to the position when you can apply and receive your allocation within a year's time. That is the target. We would like for that to take place within our first term in office, to be able to do that. So have a current system where somebody can apply in 1 year and be able to receive their allocation in the same year. We have a huge backlog that we are committed to reducing. And if you look at the work that we have done in the short time that we've been in office, I think that can restore the confidence, and that is an indication to our citizens that we are working to reduce that backlog and that we will get to you. And so we always urge and encourage people to do their part, to come in to us, to update their applications, to be clear to us whether they would like to receive their land alone or whether they want to purchase a home. And we help them through that process as well. We forward their names to the banks so that the bank can pre-qualify them. And then we try to give them an allocation where a house, a plot of land that is designated for construction of a home. Mm-hmm. And so we walk with them through that process. We hold their hand almost and walk them through that process so we can get them to home ownership. And I always am fascinated when I read about the Singaporean model of houses, of the housing sector, or in Vienna, Austria, where 90% of the land in Singapore, for example, is owned by the government. And there is oversight of the housing sector, even though they transfer management to private developers. There is always that oversight from the government to ensure that there is rent control and there is a mix in these communities, a mix of ethnicity, mix of income brackets. And that is the type of thing that we try to replicate here. Of course, we give freehold ownership and we transfer transport and title to our citizens because we have the availability of land, unlike those countries. And the right to affordable housing is guaranteed by our constitution. But we also try, as far as possible, to implement those other components, a rich mix in our communities of various ethnicities and across all income brackets. And our housing development has always been the envy of the Caribbean, and at one time was used as a model by the IDB. And so that is the type of housing sector that we want to restore as early as possible within our first term in office.
Thank you, Minister. I know time is run out on us, actually. But before we leave, so realistically, how long does it take now as we speak? I know you're looking to shorten the time, but if someone apply, last year, will they get it in 2 years' time, in 3 years? What do you think?
Well, that would be my average.
Okay.
Because that would take us to by the end of our first term, so we can be able to respond to these new applicants that would have come in during this year.
Well, Minister, before we close the program tonight, where will Silicon Valley be? I know you mentioned the highway. Any specific areas in
Silicon City?
Silica City.
Yeah.
In the Arcabra.
So we are looking for an area on the highway, the Guyana Lands and Survey Commission. in association, collaboration with the Ministry of Housing, we're trying to identify the right portion of land. You see, along the highway there, you have some private leases that were given out and so on. So we have to ensure that we have our boundaries right, and that we are not trespassing on anybody's private land. So we're still trying to work out the boundaries to know exactly where the city will be built.
It will be somewhere along the Lynn Highway.
Is it Yarracabra?
We are looking for, no, not exactly. It will be close to, we're looking at an area close to the circuit, the South Dakota circuit, but we haven't defined the boundaries as yet.
Okay. Minister, it has always been a pleasure, as usual, to have you on the program. Time ran out so fast on us. Do you want to tell us anything in closing?
No, well, I just want to say thank you for having me, and I always use the opportunity when I can address a large audience to assure people that we are working to ensure that we satisfy the demand in the housing sector, and I ask that they see that the work that we have done so far in government, that they see that as a demonstration of our commitment, and that they have some confidence in submitting that house lot application, and I can assure them that we will get to them soon.
Thank you, Minister. Dr. Rose, anything in closing?
Yes, I want to let the public know that I've been campaigning on to get people who start a job with the government, that they must not wait for 3 months in order to get their first paycheck. It is too long. These people have to travel, they have to buy clothing, and they have to eat. 3 months is too long. 2, the minister spoke about it, closing government offices during lunch break. That should end, because people should have access to government offices during the regular 8-hour days, whenever they're open. 3, internet. You're in a call and it's always keep cutting off. It's about time the power, those in authority, pressure those private companies to provide good internet services to the people of Guyana. They deserve that. And when one talks about development, if your communication system is no good, then there can be no development. So that's the groundwork for development. You must have a good and proper communication system. And 3, as the minister said, I congratulate her. As long as you have housing, the country is moving in the right direction. That's what people need. And she said she is willing to provide, or she will provide, possibly 50,000 house lots to people within the next 4 years.
And it was our government that liberalized the telecommunications sector. So bring on the competition.
But the system is still poor. And I told the government already, I want to bring a cable company here to help them, but they're telling me no. But the problem remains though, WhatsApp, it's always a cutoff problem. It's always, and I don't know why. So those are my closing comments. Plus, I would like all our PNC listeners to know that we are not biased, we are not prejudiced. We have been inviting the party leaders to come to the program, and they constantly keep rejecting us. Up to today, I got 2 rejections from them. They said they will get back to me. They're not sure of coming, and they never got back to me. And this has been a constant promise from the time the program started. So don't email me and tell me that we are prejudiced, we are biased, we don't invite APNU or PNC leaders here. We do at all times. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rose. And Minister, again, we want to thank you and to wish you all the best, and as you continue your part to ensure that all Guyanese have a home, a place that they can call home. And for those Guyanese overseas, you want to come back home, it is available. You can apply it online, and the minister said go to Guyana for the interview, and you'll also be entitled for a house lot if you do not own a home in Guyana. So Minister, thank you so much again, Dr. Rose, and to all our viewers. We want to thank you so much. Again, we want to congratulate all those lovely people on the West Demerara, Region 3 where I'm from. Yeah, you guys did well in Common Entrance. I see Leonora's primary has done very well. And I'm from Lagrange, and I see Lagrange primary also had a tough that is going.
Success stop every school in Guyana.
Yeah, I know, but West Demerara has done very well. So congratulations to all the kids. And for those who have not done so well, go to Minister Rodrigues. She will have a plan for you, because Guyana needs all of our students. No matter if they did well in the exam or not, you will be important for Guyana's development. So take care, all of you, and God bless our country. God bless our government. God bless Guyana. Take care.
Mr. Rodrigues, could you stay back for a couple of